Hello everyone and welcome back to the F2 show by Inside F2. Now it's an F2 show special today. We're joined by Formula 2 and Formula 3 CEO Bruno Michel. Bruno, great to have you with us. First of all, how are you? I can imagine you're very tired after a long season, right?
Yeah, I'm fine, but it's true. It's been a long season, and the last 2 weeks were a little bit hectic between Qatar, Abu Dhabi, the test, and also the prize giving ceremony of the FIA in Uzbekistan. And now we're back on track, and we still have a few days to work before having a long deserved, not long, but deserved break for sure.
You say not long. How long have you got off? What is it? A week, couple of weeks you get? How long to get off?
Well, I would say maybe a couple of weeks, but it's never really completely off. That's the key. That's the beauty of this job is you never stop.
Yeah.
And that's why we're also doing it because we like it.
Absolutely. No, love that. And first and foremost, what does a day in the life of the CEO of Formula 2 and Formula 3 look like for the fans who, I guess, don't, what does your job look like and why is your job fundamental to Formula 2 and Formula 3?
Well, there's not a single day that looks like another one, which is, as I said, something that is quite nice because everything is moving and is changing all the time. There are new topics and new issues to work on, almost every day. But let's say that the days out on the race weekends, it's quite simple. We have a timetable and we're working on that. And the good thing with the race weekend is that, most of the interlocutors that we have, which are the teams, the suppliers, the F1 world, everybody's at the same place. So it makes things quite simple to work. And then outside the race weekends, it's putting together things, keeping together things, and moving on with the different strategies and different approaches, and trying to stay in line with the market and what the market wants, and understanding the big issues of the future of the business because it's changing. It's an ever changing environment, and it's very interesting, but you got to be adapting to it quite regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you've got a big team that help you on a day-to-day basis. You've got Alexa and Sarah, for example. You've got a real team of people, haven't you, supporting you. Talk to me about the team and how I guess it all comes together so that cars can go on track on a race weekend.
Well, actually, I've got a very small team. It's not a big team at all, and it's the same team I've been working with for the last 20 years, I would say. So they're all extremely professional people, and they all know what to do. But if you look at the details, I've got Alexa, as you know, who is the head of communication. I've got my director of operations, who's Marco Codello, and who's dealing with all the sporting and the logistic matters. I've got my technical director, Pierre-Alain Michaud, and I've got my assistant, Barbara Pré, and I would say that's about all the team. And then we have people specialized for the spare parts, and we have for the trackside assistants, but they're not directly related to me. So my team is quite small, but very efficient, and they know the business. And as I said, they've all been with me for such a long time that they know me as well. They know how to work with me, which is important.
Yeah, sure. How important is that you've all worked together for a long time? I guess that builds up that, you all know exactly what you're doing when it comes to a race weekend, right? Which I imagine makes things go much smoother on a race weekend.
But that's exactly the point. They all know what to do and they all know what they have to do. They all know, as I said, how to work with me because every manager has a different way of managing people and of managing business, and they know what they need to report to me and what they don't have to, and they know what I need to know and what I don't need to know. And also they are extremely good in what they're doing. So they know how to handle the unexpected, because it's always the same. The expected is something that is quite simple to deal with. But then we all spend our lives having unexpected things arriving. And whether it's technical, whether it's sporting, whether it's in terms of organization, or whether it's terms of communication, there are always new things coming out. And we have to deal with them, and they know how to deal with them, and how to deal with them with me as well.
Yeah, no, awesome. And it all comes together. Well, always looks seamless from the outside perspective, from a fan perspective, watching. Always looks really good and professional on a race weekend. So, and the first thing the fans were interested in talking about was the calendar. So, 2023 was the first time the series visited Australia, which was amazing. We've obviously had 3 race weekends there now. Obviously 14 rounds across 3 different continents. How happy are you with the state of Formula 2 in terms of the calendar at the moment? Are you happy with that? Do you think it could potentially get any bigger, for example?
Well, there are a lot of tracks, a lot of promoters that would like to have us because
Yeah.
we bring a very, very interesting show the race weekend, definitely. Not only because of the quality of the racing we have, because also we have the young drivers that will come to Formula One at some points, and it's really interesting for the fans and for the public to follow them. But on the other hand, I have to be extremely careful about the cost of our operations and the cost of the teams, and because at the end of the day, the drivers are bringing most of the budgets. And I would not go for too many races, and I think 14 is already a lot. Maybe one day we can go to 15, but I don't think I will ever go to anything bigger than that. Now, talking about the geography of our calendar as well, I'm quite happy with it. And going to Australia is fantastic, and racing in Europe is great, and racing is in the Middle East is also very, very interesting. We're still missing racing in America. And that's something that we'll be working on in the future. But we need to do it in a proper way with a proper financial support to make sure that the teams are not having a too heavy burden. And also because we also are the one who are supplying the freight to all the teams, we need to be careful that, it's something that is also sustainable for us in terms of finance. So we'll look into it. And I hope in the future that we will be racing in another continent, which is the American one.
Yeah, that would be great. And it kind of ties in. I was going to ask you. So Nessie asked, is there any interest from American or South American circuits to host Formula 2? And I guess you've answered that in that there is interest. But I can imagine the logistics behind that and all of the different things you have to consider, like the budget, for example. It's not as simple as just saying, right, we're going to go to Sao Paulo. We're going to go to Kota, for example. We're going to go to Suzuka. I guess it's not as simple as that. What are the main things that you need to think about? Obviously, with the budget, but it's obviously the freight is obviously a big part of that as well, as you just said, right?
Yeah, the budget, of course, is completely key, and also the place in the calendar, because we are trying to be a little bit smart in what we're doing. Formula One is trying to make it more and more sustainable and environmentalist, I would say, with the calendar, and trying to make sure that we don't go around the world 10 times in a season because it doesn't make sense at all. And we're trying also to be careful about that. And we're trying as well, when we can avoid, to take the plane if there are possibilities to drive or to take the boat to go to events. We can do that as well, but it depends also on the time you have between 2 events. When you're in back-to-back situation, it's impossible. When you're in Europe, it's quite simple because the teams are taking their truck and arriving to the trucks quite easily. So that's also what we're trying to put together to make sure that we have a calendar that doesn't look too crazy. If you look, for instance, this season on the triple header that Formula One had, Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi, for us would be massive, honestly. And that's why we haven't been to Vegas this year, because it would be completely crazy, and for our teams as well. What everybody needs to realize is that our teams are very limited in terms of number of people. We have only 12 operating people in F2 and 10 in F3 for 3 cars in F3 and for 2 cars in F2. And the weekends are absolutely exhausting for them, more than Formula One teams, because Formula One teams, of course, the cars are much more complex, but there are many, many more people in a Formula One garage than you have in an F2 garage and F3. And we have to be careful as well of that, because when we have back-to-back or sometimes triple header, it's very, very demanding on the teams. And that's something I'm also extremely careful about.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense. Back in 2017, Formula Two went to Jerez. Well, you'll remember that well. And obviously, that was an independent round away from Formula One. Zoe asked, "Do you think Formula Two could ever host a round independent from Formula One again, or is the aim very much to stay as close to Formula One as possible?"
But we won't do that, and we won't do that for two reasons. Number one is a technical reason. It's impossible for us to race outside Formula One now because we're racing exactly with the same systems as Formula One, the marshalling systems, the DRS, all the systems related to the race control with the FIA. And being on a standalone event, we would not have the possibility to do that. The second thing is that it's something that's been completely developed now in terms of strategy with the F1 group and with Stefano Domenicali. They want F2 and F3 to be completely part of the F1 group. And racing with F1, number one, is important for them. And number two is important for us, for our teams and for our drivers, because they race in front of the F1 world. And that's why there's so much contact now between the F2, the F3 world, and the F1. And we have so many drivers coming from F1 academies as well, for teams academies. So it wouldn't make sense to go on standalone events anymore.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So it'll be Formula One rounds only. If you were to pick one, if there was no budget involved and you could just pick a venue to go to that isn't on the Formula Two calendar at the moment, what would it be? Would it be Vegas, for example? What's the one if you had to pick one?
Vegas would be a great add-up for sure. Kota would be as well because we're talking about America, but Mexico would be great as well. And Mexico, they wouldn't need it because the support races they have during the race weekend are not so strong. But same thing, it's a question of budget.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, that makes sense. Okay. Formula 2 has a lot of commercial partners that you kind of, I guess, liaising with on a regular basis. You've got Aramco, you've got Pirelli, Dallara. How important are some of those commercial relationships with Formula 2? Because I guess without those commercial partnerships, Formula 2 doesn't happen, right?
Well, actually, we don't have so many commercial partners. And the commercial partners we have are partners that make complete sense technically. The main two commercial partners that we have, and you name them, are Aramco and Pirelli. But they're not only people that are putting their name on the car and get some visibility out of what we're doing. Aramco is supplying the fuel to us and is developing sustainable fuel, and we're developing sustainable fuel with them. And we're working very hard on development with them to do that. And they're supplying the fuel free of charge to the teams as well, which is a very important impact. Pirelli, same thing. Pirelli is supplying the tires. And for us, it's very important to be related to Pirelli because Pirelli is also the tire manufacturer of Formula One. And it's very important in F3 and in F2 that the drivers are starting to work on the same type of tires and having the same issues of degradation, of wear, of that they will find in Formula One. And everybody says that one of the massive preparation for Formula 2 drivers into F1 is the use of the Pirelli tires. So that's why those two commercial partners are actually quite limited. Then we have our technical partners, Dallara supplying the car and Megachrome supplying the engines. And these partners have been with us since the very beginning of GP2, so since 2005. And they've been very loyal and very good partners, and we're still working with them because when we have people that we work well with, we have no reason to change.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of the, you've obviously got Dallara and then you've got Mechachrome as well as the engine partner. How important is that relationship with Mechachrome? And are you happy with Mechachrome as an engine supplier at the moment? And do you see that relationship continuing into the future?
Well, Mechachrome, as I said, have been our partner since the very beginning. And Mechachrome, when I started GP2, Mechachrome was the first one to come into the system and say, we want to be partner with you. Because at that time I had a very strong relationship with the management of Mechachrome, the owner of Mechachrome, Gérard Casella. And we started to work with them, and they've been working with us for 20 years. And I must say, I'm quite happy. Now we can always, discuss because sometimes we have a little bit of reliability issues on the engines. But last we change, car and engine normally every 3 years. The FIA did a tender for the engine last time. And honestly, Mecachrome was the most interesting one technically and also financially, because that's really important that the engine is not too expensive for the teams. Now, you will always have, I would say psychological issues with engine power, because for a driver, when he doesn't get a result, the best thing you can do is blame the engine. And if you listen to the drivers, they all have the worst engine in the paddock. It's a quite interesting thing. And it's, to me, it's part of the fantasy of this business as well, because you will always hear people complaining about engines. But we all know, the driver's excuses when it's not working. And, if it's not the engine, it's the car. And if it's not the car, it's the engineer. If it's not the engineer. Okay, and the engine is the first one to be guilty for an issue, especially when two drivers are in the same team and are not having the same results. Oh my God, it has to be the engine.
And I was gonna say the same thing, because if it's not the engine, it is something else. As you're saying, there's always something wrong, and it's yeah, exactly, always someone to blame, right?
So to come back to Mecachrome, yes, I'm agree. Sometimes we have reliability issues, and we're working on them. That's for sure, because it's a constant evolution. But Mecachrome has been extremely helpful in the development of the Aramco fuel as well, because we do quite a lot of development with them. And there are a lot of things we do. Now, whether they will be there in the future, it depends on them as well. It depends on what they want to do, because Mecachrome had a quite big motorsport activity. But Mecachrome, before being motorsport, is a aeronautic company, and a very, very large aeronautic company. And actually, the motorsport activity is quite small for them. But the biggest part of it was the work they were doing with Alpine. Now Alpine is going to go with the Mercedes engine from next year, so they will not have this activity anymore. After that, whether Mecachrome wants to decide what, it will be up to them to decide. But we are very happy with the partnership with Mecachrome. There's no doubt about that.
We saw the Andretti name trying to get into Formula One last year. Obviously, Cadillac have joined the Formula One grid. There were rumours about potentially Andretti being interested in Formula 2, Formula 3 as well. Did you ever have any contact with the Andrettis about entering Formula 2 or Formula 3?
No, they didn't contact me directly. I read the same. I read that they were interested in coming into F2 and F3, but I didn't have. I think they had to sort out the situation with F1 before. It was probably in the second stage. So no, I did not. But yeah, I understood they wanted to do that. I understood as well sometimes F1 teams would like to take controls of F2 or F3 teams, and I've always told the F1 teams that I didn't think it was a good idea, that I thought it was better that our teams were independent and that the F1 teams could choose over a season where they want to put the drivers. If you look, for instance, at the Red Bull program, has been very much with high-tech at some point. Now it's with Campos. And I think it was good that Helmut Marko could choose in what team he was going to put the drivers. Same thing for Alpine, same thing for Ferrari, same thing, And to me, having a dedicated team to an F1 team wouldn't be good because of that. And also because sometimes they wouldn't have drivers to put,
Yeah.
They don't have two F2 drivers as we have three drivers every year in their program. So I prefer to have something that is independent. That's always been my view.
Would you be open to a 12th team on the grid, for example, in Formula 2, or maybe even a 13th team?
It's a question, at the moment, the business is very good. Finding drivers is not an issue. And I've seen how rapidly the S3 drivers and the F2 drivers have been signed for 26. Honestly, it's quite amazing, because 2 months ago, we already knew the grids for next year, which it's quite remarkable.
It's not been the case in previous years, right? Sometimes it's taken a little bit.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And we've been through difficult times. GP2, I remember when the crisis was out in 2008, We lost teams. It was difficult to find drivers. And when you start to have one less driver than the number of seats available, all the prices are going down and the teams are suffering. And yes, at the moment, if I had a 12 team, I'm sure I would have 24 drivers. But we're also thinking about the future and, about where we can be. And I think it's more reasonable for everybody to stay where we are. We're going to have 22 cars. For the first time, Formula One is going to have 22 cars as well. So, it makes sense as well. And I'm not so keen in adding up a new team at the moment.
Okay, that makes sense. And I want to talk about Formula One Academy or F1 Academy, because they're obviously having great success at the moment. There's some brilliant young female drivers that are racing in that series. What are Formula 2, Formula 3 doing to help to give some of those opportunities, some of those drivers, the best opportunity to race in Formula 2 and Formula 3 in the future?
Well, what we've done is that we've been putting together machineries that are possible to drive by any kind of driver. And, I'm not only talking about female drivers, but, small drivers, tall drivers, light drivers, strong drivers. We've changed the setup of the steering efforts to make sure that any driver could race without power steering on an F2 car and on an F3 car. We've also made some modifications on the ergonomy of the car. We made some modifications on the braking system to make sure that any driver with different strength could also apply the same braking force on the different cars. So we've done quite a lot of work on this instance. The second thing is also, of course, I'm working very closely with Susie and to see what's happening with Formula One Academy. For the moment, we decided that, of course, the day a winner of F1 Academy or a driver of F1 Academy is ready to come to F3, we'll help her. There's no doubt about that. But we want to be sure she's ready for that. For instance, if you look at the situation of Abby Pulling last year, who won the championship, she went to another championship before trying to reach F3, because we want to be sure that when she gets to F3, she's ready. And the big issue that we've had with female drivers is not that they are slower than boys. It's just that they are not prepared as much as boys are. And that the day they will prepare as much as the boys are, there's no reason that they're not going to do the job properly. But if on the other hand they come and they're not prepared well enough, it will send a very wrong message.
Sure.
And we need to be extremely careful about that.
Yeah, because that would jeopardize things long term.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Still sure. No, that's great to hear, and hopefully we see that over the next couple of years. It was great to have Tatiana Calderon in Formula 2 a few years ago, for example. So hopefully we see.
Tatiana did a good job. Sofia, who was a strong driver, also.
Yeah.
Sofia struggled.
Yeah, of course.
She struggled in F3 last year, and Sofia is very fit, very strong, very motivated. So but we need to be very, very careful about that. And Abby is an interesting one. I don't know what Dorian will do. Probably she will go more into endurance than a single seater. But definitely we're working very closely with Susie to try to see how we can help the system.
No, that's great to hear. Bruno, one more question from me. We've had, obviously lots of drivers stepping up to Formula One this year, 4 in total. Jack Doohan, Liam Lawson, Colapinto, for example, in addition to those 4 who directly graduated. I think 12 of the 20 drivers on the Formula One grid, I think I'm right in saying, have all been through the modern era of Formula 2. What's the vision over the next few years for Formula 2? What do you want to continue doing to give drivers like Arvid Lindblad the opportunity to step up to Formula 1?
Well, this is above all our mission. It's not only to create a good championship, to do good racing. Our main mission is to prepare drivers for Formula 1. And everything else is there to accomplish this mission. So that's why the drivers are racing on Formula One tracks. That's why they're racing with, a limited track time, because they need to learn that for Formula One. That's why they learn to use the DRS. That's why they are working with the Pirelli tires. That's why, it's all these things, the format of the weekend, everything is made to prepare those drivers, the calendar as well, for Formula One. And when we see young drivers arriving in Formula One like last year, where we had 4, 5, 6, depending on how you count, coming from our system into Formula One. Number one, we're incredibly happy because it's not going to happen every year because it depends on the number of seats that are made available. And this year we have only Arvid Lindblad who's going to go into Formula One. But the other thing is when we see them succeeding and, and being like Kimi, like Isaac, like Oli, like Gabby, the way they all behaved in F1 this year, we can be very happy because the preparation is good. And we're happy because the F1 teams are trusting us in preparing their drivers for the future. And at the end of the day, I think nobody has anything to say about it. So I hope Arvid is going to show it again this year. And I hope many more drivers will do it in the future. But that's really where we want to be for the future. And as I said, it's not the visibility of our championship is important, but we're not here to create a professional championship. We're here to create a championship with the last part of the ladder to go to Formula One.
Yeah, sure. And I think all of those drivers should be really proud of how they've done in Formula One this year. And you should be proud of a series of how they represented Formula 3, Formula 2 as they've graduated. So, congratulations to you guys. Yeah, and have you got a message for the fans, the Formula 2, Formula 3 fans that watch week in, week out?
Yeah, well, the message is, I'm really grateful for them to be there and watching us every weekend, and I really hope that we're giving them in return some great racing because single make categories are always producing better racing. We all know that, and I think that's great. So stay tuned, keep on watching us. So there are many more drivers and interesting drivers coming next year in Formula 2 from Formula 3, and great young guys coming, starting with Rafa Camara, but there will be many other drivers as well. And same thing as well, we have very interesting drivers coming into Formula 3, so I promise them some great racing, and they should keep on watching and increase their numbers as well. So that's my message for them.
Sure, it's going to be an exciting year in 2026. Bruno, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. But that's all we got time for today. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel for more interviews. We've got interviews with Leo Fornaroli, Jack Crawford, Sebastian Montoya. We've got some videos with some of the new drivers for next year, Noel Leon and Emo Fittipaldi out now as well. But from me, Fraser Ford, and all of us here at Inside F2, we'll see you next time.